If you're an ambitious person or you have this high desire to succeed in life, then this video is for you because I've been there. I've been that person. I've created multiple companies. I would be considered successful. But when I really looked at my ambition and where it came from, and I always thought it was some desire or motivation or drive. I always thought it was a wonderful thing until I really looked at it and I saw that my ambition was coming from a deeper place of insecurity, basically an inferiority complex. And for me, that was growing up not having much money or resources in my family. It was a place of pain that when I really looked, I was trying to escape. And I learned from being around very successful people that these measures of success and this achievement is often always born from a sense of inferiority. And I could still see that these successful people who you would look at and on the surface be like, wow, still had this deep sense of lack. So in this video, I want to dive into some of the hidden costs of ambition and how it is tied to an inner sense of lack, and why this striving for success often leads us further away from the peace that we actually seek. And by the end, I hope you'll understand more of the nature of ambition and why it can keep us all trapped, what it takes to truly set yourself free. And we can start by peeling back the layers and uncovering some of these true roots of ambition. To understand this desire, this ambition, we have to look where it comes from. We have to look where it comes from. Most of us still have this conception of it as a good thing and as a positive force that helps us achieve. Myself, until not long ago, had this vision as well. But I started digging deeper, and you can dig deeper too, and you'll find that this ambition originates from inadequacy, a feeling of inadequacy, from a fear of not being enough. And this might be really hard for some of you to hear. But most of the time, this is exactly the case. Maybe it's a deep sense of lack, or maybe it's a faint voice in the back of your head. And often it's a belief so buried that you can barely recognize it, but it's there. It's the sense of inferiority that sits quietly and it whispers, I'm not good enough. That's what it is. I've seen it on multimillionaires' faces. And so in an attempt to drown out this feeling, most of us, business owners especially, we turn to ambition. But it's literally like putting on expensive clothes to cover up insecurities. And you might fool others for a while, but at the end of the day, you're still aware of what's underneath. Success becomes a disguise for inadequacy, and achieving more becomes a way to avoid facing the inner emptiness. And the irony is that this feeling of inferiority never actually goes away with each success. Actually, it deepens. I've made massive strides in my business, and I see in myself that it deepens. Every time you achieve something, there's a small and brief sense of relief or a flash of satisfaction, but it fades so quickly, and it pushes you to the next bigger and better achievement. It's a cycle that never ends, because it can't end until you stop running. When we achieve, thinking it will fill that void, it's like trying to quench your thirst by drinking salt water. You're feeding your insecurity instead of healing it. And it just makes you more desperate. I'll be completely honest, it makes you more desperate. Now, what does this cycle actually do to us? There's a reason why some of the most ambitious people are also the most restless, the least satisfied. Ambition, it doesn't just keep you in this cycle, it's actually, you can call it a form of disease. And like any disease, it has its symptoms, slowly eats away at your peace, your joy, your contentment. Like a fever, it keeps you in agitation, never at ease. People who are consumed by ambition don't actually experience the real joys of life, like peacefulness, music, bliss, because the ambition filling the mind with the desire of wanting, we can't be present or find any stillness. And if that's a weird word to you, you can't feel the simple feeling of just being alive because your focus is on what's next. And you think that ambition will bring you peace. That's what we're all told, that once you reach a certain level, you'll be able to rest. But peace is never something that you can reach. It's something you feel when you're at home within yourself. And when ambition controls you, you're not at home within yourself. You're chasing something external. You're trying to escape from what's really inside. History is filled with figures who have achieved incredible things, but were consumed by their ambition. The most notable example of this is Alexander the Great, who basically conquered half the world, and by the time he was 30, he died in his pursuit of more in agony. He was never satisfied. But that same ambition, that hunger for more, it lives within all of us. It looks different for different people, for sure. For some it's money, for some it's fame, for some it's power. For a lot of us it's even more subtle, just proving something to yourself or to others, like validation. Mostly it's just the sense of being enough. And what's even more dangerous is that ambition can disguise itself as something even spiritual. People will turn away from worldly success or desires, but then they start seeking this validation in other forms of spiritual enlightenment or being in a higher state of being, higher vibration, a higher frequency that's greater than yourself. But no matter what, whether it's worldly or a spiritual ambition, the cycle is exactly the same. You're running away from yourself. And ambition for enlightenment can be even more dangerous because it looks pure, but it's still ambition. You're still trying to do something other than what you are, still running from the feeling of inadequacy. So as long as you feel that you are not enough, you're trapped. No matter how many times that you achieve, succeed, or reach a new height, you will remain empty. And when you try to fill that emptiness with something external, you're putting a bandage on a wide open wound. The wound is still there, it's festering underneath. So I guess that leads us to being free. How do we finally remove ourselves? How do we finally remove ourselves from the endless striving? And the answer is always easy, but not so simple. It's a turning inward. You have to face the very thing that you've been running from. Recognize the inner sense of emptiness, that sense of lack for what it truly is, because that is the root of all ambition, the feeling of being incomplete. But the emptiness is still there, waiting to be acknowledged. You have to acknowledge it instead of running. Maybe try sitting with it. Because when you stop trying to escape your own sense of inadequacy, something shifts. The emptiness itself becomes a space of endless possibility, a quiet void where, paradoxically, you can find everything that you're looking for. If you can face that emptiness and accept it, you'll find that it does not define you. It's a part of the human experience. There's a powerful story about Tamberlane and a king that I've heard. The king was defeated in battle and brought before Tamburlaine as a prisoner. Tamburlaine laughed at the king's defeat, but the king looked at him in the eye and said, "Do not laugh at the defeat of others. One day you too will taste defeat." And Tamburlaine's laughter was his way of avoiding his own inner fear, his own inner awareness of inadequacy. But it was also a reminder that even in victory, ambition carries the seeds of defeat because it's not truly satisfied. It's never truly satisfied. When you stop trying to cover your emptiness, you stop running from yourself. And when you can do that, then a transformation takes place. You no longer need to become something greater than that which you are, because you're no longer trying to escape your true self. And that's when you start to experience peace, not as an achievement, but as your natural state. To truly know yourself, to accept yourself as you are, is the only freedom from ambition. It's the only path. This does not mean you won't set goals or pursue things that matter to you. It's simply the fact that you won't be driven by a need to prove yourself. Instead, you will act from a place of completeness, not from a desire to fill an inner void. Only by knowing ourselves can we escape the inferiority complex that ambition creates. Inner knowledge is the only antidote. When you know yourself, then ambition loses its grip. When you know yourself, then there is no lack. There is nothing missing. So if you've been caught in the cycle of ambition, if you've been driven by a sense of not being enough, I encourage you to stop running. Turn inward. The journey isn't about adding more or achieving more or becoming more. It's about peeling away these layers, shedding the illusions, and finally coming home to yourself. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe. You can join my meditation community or check out my website below. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.